Record. Okay. Hello, friends, enemies, BD Wong, esteemed listeners, the precious five. Hello. It's time for Perhaps It's You.
Can you believe that it's time for Perhaps It's You after all this time?
Kind of can't. It's been a while.
I don't even remember the last time we talked about Unsolved Mysteries episode.
I know. Samantha, very selfishly, everyone, you can blame her. I know she's so much trouble, right?
I mean, it's true. Actually, it is true.
She was like, I'm going to get the flu and be really sick. And I was like, God, Samantha, that's so selfish. And then she was like, I'm going to really hurt my back and be in horrible pain. And I was like, it's all about you, isn't it? It's all about you. And she was like, you were sick in December. And I was like, that's the past. You got to let go. You need to stop holding on to that. It's holding you back, I said.
I really am. Yeah, me and my herniated disc are currently holding this podcast back.
Just that word hurts me.
It's not great. It's not great, folks. Not a good time.
Okay, witches. I know some witches listen to this podcast, and I need you to send your healing energy to Samantha's back. Please. She needs it.
Is it time for me to get that chronic lower back pain tramp stamp?
Please do, because I think it would be bitchin'. That's the only word I can think of to appropriately.
I think it's time.
Encapsulate how proud I would be to know you if you had a lower back tattoo with some of that quote unquote tribal flair that said chronic lower back pain. I would be like, yes, this slut is my friend.
If you're a tattoo artist in Minneapolis, reach out.
Yeah, maybe we can get some sort of deal. Yeah, you know what? Once again, we're doing the best we can. Is that good enough? I don't really care. Like, this is the best we can do. Quality-wise, quantity-wise.
It actually literally is the best we could do.
This is literally the best we can do. And if that is not good enough for you, you can, there's a lot of podcasts out there. You don't have to listen to this one.
That's true.
We care less and
less.
less.
Better podcasts, I'm sure.
We care less and less. So we're here. And we're here because we know that the five are so loyal and we don't want to let them down.
I mean, that is true. There is at least 5 people out there that have been waiting for this episode to drop.
So patiently.
You want to hear us talk about Ouija boards, don't you?
Okay, this episode is pretty cool. Do we have... I can't even remember if we have any updates. It's like been 10 million years, so...
I don't know. Who knows? Listen to our Patreon if you want the latest snacks with stacks.
Yes, we did.
Snacks with stack, not multiple stacks, just one stack.
Of snacks. A Valentine's Day themed snacks with stack was on our latest Patreon episode, which is still about the Unsolved Mysteries reboot, the volume, what are we on? 3, 4? Whatever, the newest one.
3.
Where we talk about the paranormal rangers and also a college guy named Josh who disappeared in Minnesota. Whatever happened to Josh? Is that what that episode's called? Anyway, those are the 2 episodes that we talk about in the newest episode of our Patreon. So if you want to listen to that, you have to find $1 on the ground and send that in.
Yeah, we did manage to get a Patreon episode out on the last day of the month. So
I mean, those people pay us, so we feel extra obligated. We're like, oh shit, we really have to do that thing. Oh shit, I really need to make a coloring shit of an alien flying a normal plane based on, I don't know if people remember when we were talking about that tweet that a guy was talking to his neighbor and she said she saw a UFO, but what it was she saw a plane and she looked at it with binoculars and an alien was flying a normal plane. And
can you see a plane with binoculars at cruising altitude?
I don't know that you could see into the cockpit.
To see the pilot.
I'm guessing if you knew about planes, you could look at a plane with binoculars and go, oh, it's that type of plane, right? But it has this type of engine or something. But I don't know that you could be and the people on board are I'm a little bit skeptical of the whole story, but it does enchant me.
You don't say. You're skeptical that she saw an alien flying a 747.
Just it has a side gig for Southwest. It's being an alien just doesn't pay what it used to. I need a side hustle here. Which apparently pilots
the gig economy is out of control.
Terribly. I don't like that at all.
Pilots are paid bad.
Yeah, they're paid really, really bad. Which is not good, I don't think, for our safety. It doesn't comfort me.
Bad. I don't think that's good. I don't agree with it.
They often have to have other jobs and stuff. And that makes me feel like they're too tired. I don't know. I don't like it. Let's pay pilots better. The whole thing seems very fishy. I don't know.
God.
I'm just talking out of my ass as usual. What do I know? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we had updates, but I forgot them all. And
it's fine.
It's fine. Again, we're doing the very best that we can, and it's not that good. And here we are. Happy podcast. Happy perhaps it's you. I'm actually pretty excited.
I can't believe we're not a more popular podcast. I know
it's weird, right? It's weird. It's weird that we made this incredibly. Do you say niche or niche? Whatever. We made this incredibly.
I don't know.
Niche thing, and then we're like, can't believe more people aren't tuning in. I was telling Mac the other day that this was years ago, I think we had just started the podcast. I went to this like kind of fancier place to get my hair dyed. This woman that's like very well renowned for doing like vivid color hair, and so you're there for a long time if someone's dyeing, like bleaching and dyeing your hair. And I talked about how I was doing Zine Fest that weekend, and then she didn't really know what zines were. And so I was explaining like, oh, they're like little publications you make yourself and you sell them for like, a few bucks. That's not really the point. And she was sort of like, you do that for $5. She was like, so here I am paying like hundreds of dollars for her to do my hair, right? She was really like, I was like, that's not really the point, you like meet cool people and whatever. And she was like, okay. And then I was talking about the podcast, which like basically anyone I've mentioned it to, even if they don't really get it, they're like, wow, that's cool. Like, it's cool you do a podcast, or I loved Unsolved Mysteries or whatever. They have like, particularly Minnesota, just being Minnesotans, people have something like positive to say in general. And she was really like, who would be interested in that?
I mean, she's right, but why would you say that?
But also, like, lady, I'm literally like about to hand you so much money. Could you keep it to yourself? Guess what? I never went back. She did a good job too, and I was like, I can't take it. I can't take the ridicule to my face of all of my life choices, of all of my creative outlets. Like, no thanks. I'm sorry, I'm not a woman that looks like a model and like, does people's hair for an insane amount of money. I'm sorry that didn't work out for me, like it has for you.
Absolutely hilarious.
It's totally fine in a situation to that to be like, wow, I'm sorry we can't all be as cool as you. Like, damn. But I am excited to talk about this episode, and I think people should be interested in it because we get to talk about Ouija boards.
We get to hear Robert Stack talking about Ouija boards, which is kind of amazing, actually.
Okay, I feel like I need to take my earrings off, and I'm sorry if they've been like rattling in y'all's ears this whole time. I feel like that might have been causing a tiny bit of.
This podcast is getting serious if you're taking your earrings off.
Yeah, it's about to go down. What episode is this even?
Fuck if I think it's episode 19. Are we still in season 7?
We are still in season 7. Okay.
We're never getting out of this season.
No, it's
episode 19, I think.
More than a year, which is absurd. When we first were doing this and we did it every week, we were like cruising through those episodes. Like seasons were just flying by. We're like, wow, we'll be done with this whole show in no time. And now it's like, you know what? It's been over a year. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in.
We switched to the fortnightly format, and then we can't even get episodes out every other week.
We can't even get that together. So it's like, well, here we are.
Right, we're turning it around. We're doing it.
New leaf on podcasting life. Who would be interested in that?
Look, I don't know, but also shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I was like, well, 5 people have told me that they're going to listen. And guess what? That's good enough for me. Sorry, some of us have lower standards, okay? She also, like, because I was going to be there so long, I brought a book and a sandwich, and she made fun of me. What? She was like, wow.
Oh, it's because her other clients don't eat.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. But it was like at lunchtime, too. And I was like, I was going to be there from, like 11 to 1:30.
She should have complimented you.
And I was like, ooh, I better stop and get a sandwich because I would be hungry. I'm just sitting there while I burn my hair off of my head. And she was like, wow, you're really ready to camp out, huh? Like, I guess. I should have just left. Be like, the credit card number I gave you was wrong. And also I have to go. Don't charge that. Okay. So I have this unexplained segment where Robert Sachs is telling us about the Ouija board. Did you know about it? Revered for nearly 3,000 years as a method to predict the future and contact the spirits of the dead. The Ouija board first became popular in the US in the 1890s when it was marketed as a provocative parlor game.
Ooh.
So, yeah, spirit boards have been a thing for a long time. It's just like the alphabet and a yes no as a way to communicate with spirits. It started getting marketed as like a board game that you would like buy at Toys R Us at some point, which to me is always like people get really freaked out about Ouija boards. And that's always very funny to me because they're made by like what, like Hasbro or something. It's just like
It's a toy. Like it's literally a toy.
I doubt they're putting like literally the spirit of the devil. It's like it's just a sticker on a piece of cardboard. Like I am not quite sure.
Yeah, it's not.
And even if you have a more spiritual life than me and you believe in realms and communication, whatever. I do remember an episode of The Fat Feminist Witch where she talked about it's just a tool, right? Like there's no magic in it inherently. You're just using it to spell out things. In and of itself, it's not gonna do anything. It's just you have to bring the magic. The thing from Hasbro itself is not magic. I think people worry that because you're communicating with spirits, they're gonna get like possessed or like haunted in some way. And I mean, I guess it's could be anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Why would they need a Ouija? If they were gonna possess you, why would they need to wait until you broke out the Ouija board?
Yeah, I don't know.
If they were that powerful.
I don't know that. We are going through like a new satanic panic, and there's a lot of right-wing stuff about like demons, and it's kind of hard to take seriously, but it's also like alarming. But I really don't. If a demon is like has any power, I don't think it needs the board from Hasbro to like.
I don't think so.
To do anything. Like if it's gonna possess you, it doesn't need to spell out first. I am going to possess you. Like it could just do it, right?
No. I would. I mean, I would think. I don't get it.
I don't really get it. It's funny to me that like the same things can like keep scaring people. Like the idea of just like, oh no, Sam Smith is wearing a red devil horns. It's like, so what? What? What are you talking about?
Like so much like okay,
a child on Halloween. Yeah. What are you talking about?
What? Oh my god. You know what I was thinking when I was watching this episode is that like so you have to touch the planchette. You know, like everybody has to touch it, which I kind of understand, but like wouldn't it be if the spirit was using the Ouija board
why do you have
through,
to like why do you have to touch it at all?
Why do you have to touch it? Like, I mean, I know the answer to why you have to touch it because like
it will not move.
Yeah, otherwise it won't move. But like if we're being real, like the spirit could just move it if it's that powerful. I don't maybe it's not that powerful. Maybe it's powerful but not that powerful.
Definitely I had a fortune telling themed, I think it was 7th grade birthday party where my mom read our cards and I made everyone runes, and we made these like little bags to put the runes in. Like that's a pretty nice party favor. You're welcome, everyone. And we broke out a Ouija board to contact Kurt Cobain, and then somehow we all got into like a huge fight over it, obviously. And it turns out that Jennifer later confessed that she was moving it. So
God, what a bitch.
Thanks for ruining my birthday party.
But that's that's always what happens.
Jennifer H, you know who you are.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Later she was like, "Oh, I was totally just doing it to fuck with people," and I was like, "Great, thanks." We all had like a huge fight. Like people were like crying. It was like, whatever. It's the 7th grade, but I think that's kind of usually what happens. If you have a really freaky story about something that happened when you were using a Ouija board, like all the lights went out and then it said you're going to hell, or I don't know, whatever, please write in and tell us.
Yeah, we'd love to read it. If we ever finish this season, we'll do a season finale.
Yeah. Perhaps it's podcast@gmail.com. We want to hear an actual spooky Ouija board story where Jennifer H was not the one moving it around to be like, I'm Kurt Cobain and I'm disappointed in you, or whatever the hell it was. We hear one short Ouija board story and then we get into like a longer, more interesting Ouija board story. So the first one is Gay Rowley of Dunkirk, New York. And she had been considering going on a trip to Scotland, and she was playfully like using the Ouija board in her dining room to be like, oh, should we go to Scotland? Should we go here? Like, yes, no, right? And her husband was like in the kitchen doing dishes or something while she was like being a goof with the Ouija board. And she asked who she would cross the border into Scotland with. Like, she was saying it like to her husband, like, oh, I wonder who I'm gonna go with, when it's, you know, supposed to be him, right? But the Ouija board had a different idea, and it said J.D. McDonald, who was not a person that they knew, and they didn't know anyone with that last name. And they were like, okay, that's like really specific and weird, but whatever. Then 6 months later, they go on their trip. They're taking the train into Scotland, and like right when they're about to get to the border, this woman who's like drinking and socializing comes up to them and introduces herself as JD McDonald from Australia.
This is kind of actually a cool story because, like,
what? It's so weird.
Literally JD McDonald, which is such a random name.
And did we expect that person to be a woman? We did not, did we?
No, we didn't.
Because we're all sexist. And we were like, JD, that's a man. No, it was a woman, and she was from Australia, and she just happened to be on that train, and she just happened to say hi to them right when they were going to cross the border into Scotland. And they show this reenactment where the husband, you know, he probably wasn't really paying that much attention when she was playing with the Ouija board, and he's just like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And the wife's like, what? Because her mind is blown. Okay. Now we go into what Stat calls the most remarkable Ouija episode of all time.
Okay. That's a bold statement, Stack.
He never saw that movie Ouija, for one.
Apparently.
Which I didn't either. It looked really bad, but the story is from 1913 and continued for several years. So it is about a 17th century woman named Patience Worth, who repeatedly spoke through the board from beyond the grave. Through the Ouija board, she composed plays, novels, and countless poems for a total of over 30 volumes of work. A letter at a time. She was patient. Patience, you proved it.
Patience had a lot of time on her hands.
Yeah, so did all these people talking to Patience. Oh my, I'd be like, really, another poem, Patience? Who cares? Keep it to yourself. Okay, so these were communicated to Pearl Cunnin, who was the wife of a rich St. Louis businessman. I didn't write down his name. He doesn't really matter. Okay, so prior to hearing from Patience, Pearl was not known to have any interest in the occult or creative explorations, which makes people think this story is more believable. So around 1912, her friend, Mrs. Hutchins, who was a spiritualist, persuaded her to take part in some Ouija board experiments, which, you know what? People used to be real bored, but that's kind of fun. It would be kind of fun to go over to your friend's house once a week for your Ouija board experiments.
Yeah.
So they used to get together, seriously, every week for a year. And for most of that year, they got pretty much just gibberish. Like, it didn't make any sense. And clearly they weren't trying to move it on purpose, and nothing was really happening. And Pearl's mom, who was also bored, would join these sessions with a notebook so she could write down what was being spelled out. And for a long time, it didn't really spell out anything. But then on July 8th, 1913, the planchette, which if you don't know, that's that little pointer thing. It's called a planchette. It started whipping around the board quite quickly. And they were shocked to discover when her mother read back what had been spelled out, read, many moons ago I lived, again I come. Patience Worth, my name. Okay. In the coming months of contact, Patience began to dictate her literary works, which I wanted to know more, like, how did this exactly come about? I want more information about this. Was she like, okay, guys, buckle up. I'm going to tell you an entire novel, one letter at a time. And they were like, oh, Jesus Christ.
This would take so long.
Yeah. So we talk now about how she often used very dated language, such as thee and thou. But suspiciously, that's not consistent.
No one can talk like that unless you're from that time.
Well, also, she was
I can't believe you even said those words right now because you're not allowed.
Yes. Well, sorry. I'm actually from the Shakespearean times. No.
Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, it's fine.
Part of what is, maybe a little suspicious about the story is that so she would use words from various points of history. Like, they weren't really consistent to one specific era. They were just like old-timey sounding, even in 1913. And when she was asked about that, she was like, oh, I do that so people know it's me, Patience, and not Pearl, because Pearl wouldn't talk like that. It's like, okay.
But Pearl can literally just talk like that. It's not like she's incapable of... What?
She would produce between 500, which is kind of a lot, to 3,000 words in one sitting. People would come to watch this process to see like how legit it was, including a literary publisher named Reedy, who went on to write many articles on the subject and helped bring it international attention. He was not willing to say that it was being written by a ghost because he was a skeptic, but he did
sounds
it.
like a coward.
Yeah, totally. But he didn't see like how it was being faked necessarily, and he did think that the writings themselves had excellent literary merit. Now, I think it's interesting that they don't find anyone from this segment to be like, yeah, these books are good. Like, I don't think anyone now thinks that, but apparently at the time people were like, whoa, this ghost, she really knows how to write.
Should we read one of these books for book club?
I mean, I am tempted. I bet they're very boring. Her first book was called The Sorry Tale, and it was about Palestine during the time of Jesus. And it was apparently very historically accurate, which people were impressed by.
Couldn't she write like a murder mystery?
Nope, she had to write about Jesus times.
Ugh.
This got a good review in the New York Times, which is quite an accomplishment for a woman who is already dead, which complimented the accuracy of a master hand.
Wow. That is a big accomplishment for a ghost.
It really is. I'm not aware of another ghost that gets a good review from the New York Times. We now hear from the author of Ouija, the most dangerous game, who there's no way that book's good.
Dangerous?
Oh, Samantha.
Is this more dangerous than like Russian
Samantha.
Roulette? Is that a dangerous game?
You would think. He didn't write a book called Russian Roulette, a game where you actually shoot a gun into your head. No, it's about Ouija.
Spin the bottle. You could get, a cold sore.
Okay, are you aware of this thing called like the Charlie Challenge or something?
What?
This was a few years ago. This was another satanic panic thing. It was a thing kids were doing. That was literally just like banging pencils together. But then all these right wingers were like convinced that they were opening this portal to hell. And someone I'm like very
kids can literally just do anything, and right wingers will be like,
oh no, a portal
the
to hell.
devil.
But someone I'm like very loosely connected to was like posting on Facebook about how they were very concerned about children opening these portals to hell. And then someone else I know was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was peak Facebook times. That was great. But
everybody knows that banging pencils together opens a portal to hell, Liz. I don't know.
Well, you had to do it a certain way, Samantha, obviously.
Well, yeah, duh.
Or it's not gonna work for some reason. Hell, the way hell works. Okay. Anyway, I was like more dangerous than the Charlie Challenge. I think not, or whatever the fuck that was called. Someone could correct me. Anyway, this guy that wrote this book that is clearly terrible from the title alone claims that Pearl was a true believer. But skeptics believe Pearl would spend her time memorizing stories during the day in order to recite them letter by letter at night, which I have to say, I'm not sure I could do that. Could you memorize? Like, could you write something out and then like spell it out later, letter by letter? I would not be able to do that. But this could not be confirmed since she seemed to spend all her day doing like normal housewife stuff, like housekeeping and running errands, and not writing things and memorizing them letter by letter. This is what I think is probably going on, that the writings were actually from Pearl's subconscious mind. That Pearl was writing these boring books and poems and things, but I don't know that she was necessarily aware of it.
Yeah.
I think it provided her a creative outlet at a time where maybe that wasn't super available to women, and maybe it was more available to a ghost than it was to like a real live breathing woman, and it meant people would actually like listen to her and find her interesting and whatever. And I think it served a purpose that maybe she didn't need to like really examine too deeply where those things were coming from.
That makes sense. So I found the Charlie Challenge.
Oh, how does it work?
So you take a piece of paper and you make a quadrant using 2 pencils.
Samantha, don't do it. No.
And so then, you have 2 pencils that make a cross, which, you have 4 quadrants, and you put no, yes, yes, no. And then as far as I can tell, I don't really understand I think you like, it's called, Wikipedia says it's a divination game. So somehow you like move the pencils, but
Okay.
And there was like a whole alarmist tabloid newscast that whatever. But it brought me to what an article about and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. It's the ideomotor phenomenon or the ideomotor response, which is a phenomenon where you make motions unconsciously, which I think is like maybe one of the things that people think happen with
Yeah.
where like you have your hand, you don't think that you're moving. You have your hand on the planchette, or maybe in this case, one of the pencils, if you're playing this Charlie game, and you don't think you're moving it, but like you actually are. Like, you can't actually help it.
Your desire for it, you want it to move. So even though you're not consciously like, I'm gonna put it on the letter S, like you subconsciously end up like,
Yes.
that ends up happening. And I'm gonna give Pearl the benefit of the doubt. I don't think she like sat down and was like, I'm gonna fraud people. I think she just ended up, because her friend kept making her go to the Ouija board and they were just bored. I think she just sort of like ended up, these like poems and writings or whatever like came through that way, and she ended up having this outlet. Because I remember seeing, God, so long ago, I remember seeing something on PBS about, maybe it was about teaching chimps sign language or something, or like trying to teach chimps how to like hit buttons to mean different things, but it turned out like their handlers like subconsciously were like directing them a lot more than they thought they were.
Yeah.
Like if
I think I've seen that too.
Like if the handlers weren't there, they didn't get the same results, and it was because like they wanted it. They weren't doing it on purpose. They just really wanted it to work. So it was like,
Right.
it ended up affecting the results. And I'm gonna give Pearl the benefit of the doubt and say that's what was happening here.
It's like those dogs on TikTok that use the buttons to talk. Do you think it's like that?
I mean, some dogs are a lot smarter than my dogs. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, same.
My dogs could never do that. I was watching a video about like how like very few animals seem to have like self-awareness where they like recognize themselves as like a separate being from just like existing, and can like recognize themselves in the mirrors and shit like that. And it takes like a certain level of intelligence to be able to do that. So like dolphins, crows, magpies, elephants were like examples of like animals smart enough to like
know that they are a thing.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
separate from the world.
Yeah. Which I thought was a super interesting, but dogs are like generally not.
I mean, they're
just like living off that serotonin vibing, like not. But like an elephant can like look in the mirror, like you can paint a dot on an elephant and it can look in the mirror and realize that dot is like on it and try to get it off, which most animals would be like, oh, that's another animal. You know what I mean?
Right. Fascinating. Man, I wish I could be a dog and not realize that.
God, I know.
A sentient being separate from.
I also thought it was super interesting that magpies, I think maybe crows as well, and elephants have funeral rituals.
I've heard that.
If someone in their like, murder of crows or whatever dies, then they like observe the death, which I think is super interesting, that there's like an innate need to do that. While other animals don't really understand like why they're gone or why they're not moving.
Yeah. Fascinating.
But like a crow understands death. A crow could have an existential crisis, I think is what I'm saying.
And maybe they might have existential crises.
They might be having one right now. Watch out. Okay. So anyway, believers point out that Pearl came from a working class family and left school by age 13. She was not known to read very much or shown any interest in literature. So this is supposed to be why Pearl couldn't have written these things. I don't know. Maybe she's just smarter than people gave her credit for. And also, I don't know that these books are really that good. So I think people were super impressed. It was written by a ghost. I don't know that they were like, I'm supposed to go, oh, it was in the New York Times. It must have been really good. Yeah. Is anybody still reading this? Doesn't sound like it. This was kind of cool. In 1916, Pearl and her husband decided to adopt a child because of the urging of Patience's spirit.
Okay.
A ghost told them to adopt a baby. So they were unable to
Look,
conceive.
if a ghost tells me to do something, I'm doing it.
Yeah, they were unable to conceive. Adoption was not super accepted at this time, but patients, like through the Ouija board, told them that they should adopt. So they made arrangements with a widow who had become pregnant before her husband had passed away and was not going to be able to take care of the baby. So patients told them that this baby would be a girl and that they should adopt the baby. Then one night, okay, so it seems like every single night, Pearl and her mom and her husband would sit down with the Ouija board, and so patients could be like, here's another poem about Jesus and how his love is good. And so one night they're doing that, but then exactly,
Exhausting.
I know, patience, you ask a lot of these people. But then one night, exactly at 8 p.m., Patience suddenly stopped dictating and said that she couldn't go on because something important was about to happen and she was done for the night. And it turned out that the baby that they were to adopt was born at exactly that time. And the baby was a girl. The baby also had red hair and brown eyes, the same as Patience said she did. So they then said that the baby would be named Patience Worth Cunnin. I mean, again, I think this is just Pearl expressing her thoughts and opinions through a Ouija board because people are more keen to listen. But if she wanted to adopt this baby and her saying a ghost said so meant it happened, great. It seems like it worked out for everybody. The widow had a baby she wasn't going to be able to care for. Pearl wanted a baby. Maybe her husband was like, well, only if a ghost says so. I don't know. But it all worked out in the end, it seems like. And I hope baby Patience had a good life.
Should we try that with things that we want? Like, I really think I need another donkey.
Yeah.
I think a ghost told me that we should get another donkey. Actually, a ghost told me we should get a whole herd of donkeys.
It worked for the guy that invented chiropractic. He was a Canadian who said a ghost taught it to him in a dream. So
you know what? This is actually, I'm glad you brought this up. Listeners, I know I mentioned my herniated disc. Do not fucking tell me anything about going to a chiropractor. I will not do it.
You don't want medicine from a ghost.
You know what? I don't.
Not even like a ghost you can see, a dream ghost. That seems like an extra level to me for some reason.
I want to see a ghost, but I'm not going to take medical advice from a ghost.
Okay, what if a ghost showed up and is like, I'm going to fix your back? Like, and it was literally not a chiropractor. It's literally a ghost.
I would let the ghost try.
But then you find out it's the ghost of a chiropractor.
I would ask questions first. I'm not just going to blindly.
Okay. I think that's fair.
But yeah, a ghost can
what
try
kind of insurance do you take, ghost? I need to know. Yeah,
if a ghost needs to see my insurance card, we're done. I'm not. No.
Does this go towards my deductible? Like, I can't get sidetracked by this, but I just want people outside of the US to know that yes, even though we have to pay for our own insurance, it covers like fucking nothing. And then you still have to pay for shit. And it just bothers me every day.
It's great.
I love Twitter is dying. It doesn't really work anymore, but I loved periodically seeing people outside of the US find out that we have to pay for an ambulance and just being like, I'm sorry,
not
what?
only do we have to pay for an ambulance.
I'm sorry, what? And you're like, you're right. It is an emergency service. That does not make sense. But anyway, yeah. I don't take your insurance. I'm sorry. That's out of pocket. Okay, so anyway, she had a baby. She went on to dictate a second novel called Hope True Blood. Not the worst title I've ever heard.
So that needs to be a murder mystery.
Yeah. Hope True Blood.
I'm sure it's not. It's probably something about Jesus, but
let's see. Actually, they didn't say in the episode.
Can we get this from the library?
Hope True Blood. One of those interlibrary loans forums.
Yeah. You got the library to buy Man Fuck This House.
Yeah, I sure did. Okay.
You can get the library to buy a book written by a ghost.
Hope True Blood is a Victorian-esque drama that could easily be transformed into a high drama film in the spirit of Masterpiece Theater. Okay.
Says who?
Yeah, I don't know. It takes
Patience
place in
herself.
Yeah. The cover is not good, but I am curious. One of the reviews just says, "You will enjoy this book."
All right.
It's more than just a story. Then someone goes, "Not exceptional." I have to feel like I agree with Doreen here. Not exceptional. I actually have the first edition of this novel. It begins very strongly and in fact had me crying, but it tends to sag as the novel continues. It is a somewhat standard Victorian type ending of sacrifice. The renunciation. Huh. Okay. Well.
All right. Well. Five listeners book and read it and tell us if we should read it.
It tells us that it's not exceptional. So that was published in 1918. The communication between Pearl and Patience went on for another 19 years.
Oh my God.
For 24 years in total. Pearl's husband, whose name I didn't even bother to write down, transcribed these sessions until his death in 1922.
Girls, ladies, get you a man.
Yeah. He's out there. Find yourself a man who's willing to dedicate his life to transcribing the ghost who only talks to you.
Word by word.
Yeah. And is just like, okay then. Yeah. I just like picture him sitting by like the little doily covered side table. Like, Hope Trueblood. Oh, this sounds like a winner, honey. She's like, shut up. Patience is talking to me. Shut up. Okay. Yeah, so he did that until he died. After he died, Pearl ended up moving somewhere else and still had communications with Patience. In 1937, Pearl told a friend that Patience had, quote, shown her the end of the road, sort of alluding to that her end was coming. And despite being previously healthy, she fell ill within 2 weeks of saying that, and within 3 weeks, she was dead. Through Pearl, Patience had dictated some 4 million words. Wow. Which I will never, ever write that much. I'm just going to say it right now. So it ends with Robert Stack telling us that with something that Pearl once said to one of her skeptics, which was, if you're so sure this is a trick, let's see you do it. Which I like.
I mean, I like that as a response, but I also think I could do it.
Do you think you could? I'm a terrible speller, so I could not do this. But I have faith that you could do it.
I'm okay at spelling. I mean, it's not like it has to be good.
You know, you could always be like, the ghost vibes are off. I don't even remember how to spell Patience anymore.
It's not me writing it. It's the ghost. So if the ghost is a bad writer, it's the ghost.
You could also work that in. You could be like, my ghost is an 11-year-old who died in a coal mine and he never went to school. So he thinks he does not know where vowels go, just like me. It's a weird coincidence. Right? Like you could work that into your bit. Be like, you said this was the writing of a 6-year-old? Well, guess what?
Right.
The ghost is 6.
But even if I can't do it, like my mom is amazing at spelling. Like growing up, I couldn't spell a word, you just had to shout it out and she'll spell it. It's like she should have won a spelling bee. So like people could do this.
Do you think is there like adult spelling bees? Could she enter one now?
Maybe. She's really good at Wheel of Fortune for the same reason, I think.
Why don't they have that at the state fair? Adult spelling.
Good idea.
I'm gonna start calling the state fair every day.
You should pitch that idea, yeah.
Where's the adult spelling bees? And they're like, this is not something anyone is interested in. Like, speak for yourself. I want to see Samantha's mom kill on stage, spelling complicated
ribbon, yeah.
Complicated words no one actually ever uses. Okay, so now we have okay. So the spirits or the fates were merciful to you, knowing that you have too much on your plate right now, and they gave you only the shortest mysteries in this episode.
Yeah, extremely short.
Oh, thank you.
So
thank you
blink and miss it, because I'm about to talk to you about some counterfeit money.
I feel like if you counterfeit money really well, it shouldn't be a crime.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, where'd this guy go? It's fine.
You're just saving the state the expense of making it.
Yeah.
If it's so good, people really can't tell the difference. I think
This
that it should
guy
be fine.
did this in Minnesota, and it tracks because we have a lot of time on our hands in Minnesota to develop our skills. Like some people become really good at knitting, whatever. This guy got really good at counterfeiting money, and I think let him do it. He could display his work at the state fair.
He absolutely should be able to do that. Just because he didn't want to make a like canoe out of one tree or whatever. He didn't want to like come up with a certain type of honey muffin. Like, so
This is
what?
a
He's great
challenge.
at counterfeiting, and let's love him for that.
Agreed. Okay. I don't even know what I think this is a wanted. I'm not even sure.
I did not even write it down. And I named a mustache, but I didn't write down whose mustache it was. And I watched this over a week ago, so I do not remember.
What did you call it? I'm looking at John Vogel's mustache right now. I'll tell you if it sounds appropriate.
I think it is his because I was like, counterfeiters aren't dirtbags, so I can name his mustache, which was pyramid shaped, right?
It is a pyramid. It's triangular.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's Mystery of the Sphinx.
It's like not that symmetrical though. He's got like a little bald spot like close to his lip on one side. But
yeah, I think he needs to kind of let the mustache go because
I think so too.
But I think Mystery of the Sphinx is a pretty cool name for a mustache.
Yeah, it's a pyramid. That's John Vogel's mustache. All right. On January 12th, 1995, 52-year-old John Vogel went to a shipping office in Brownsville, Texas, and attempted to send a package to his business office in Minnesota. So this is a local connection here. The shipping clerk.
I was counterfeiting money. Okay. Samantha, in the world where the purge is real, you know how conservatives think that Minneapolis is experiencing the purge and like crime is legal and whatever, which hilariously a bunch of cops quit. So we actually have like less cops, but crime went down. Are people aware of this? We did not defund the police, but just like a bunch of cops were like, fuck this, I'm out. So we have like a smaller police force, but then crime went down 20%. Yeah, hilarious. Okay,
yeah, those things aren't like connected, and also like they are kind of connected in like the opposite way. So
also, I feel like the cops that are still here are kind of like trying not to do anything to like punish us all, and then we're just sort of like, well, we're still going to commit less crimes, whatever. But anyway, there's certain right-wing people that think that all of Minneapolis is on fire and experiencing the purge. And I recently watched the Purge Anarchy, and I was like, this is weird. Life in Minneapolis is nothing like this. I've been lied to again. But I was thinking about what would I do in a world where for 12 hours crime was legal? And obviously you would just fucking move away. Like, who would put up with that?
I mean, I would be afraid of getting murdered, but
yeah, you would move to Canada and you would be like, I need to apply for asylum because the United States lets people kill people for 12 hours every year. And my life is literally in danger. And Canada would go, oh my God, come in, right? I don't think you would just sit around and be like, well, I'm going to get better windows, which is what people do. Which is what people do in the movie. They're like, I'm going to put better locks on my doors because of this purge law. But if I couldn't do that, I definitely would be using those 12 hours to counterfeit money in a bunker.
Yeah, definitely. Except with that, okay, but when the purge was over and you're in possession of that counterfeit money.
Okay, that's the problem. Is I think it would be illegal to spend my counterfeit. Hopefully it's so good no one will ever notice. But then do I have to like wait till the next purge to actually spend it? Because I don't think anything is like open during the purge to take my counterfeit money.
This is a real dilemma. You can't go to the TJ Maxx during the purge.
I don't
buy all the candles.
So. Because for some reason the second crime is legal, I think most people would be like, cool, I am robbing a bank. But in the movies, everybody's like, great, I've always wanted to kill the woman that lives next door. And you're like, really? I'm not sure everybody would immediately jump to full-on murder.
No, you're right. Because then I would just go steal things from the TJ Maxx.
Yes,
I don't need to counterfeit money to allow me to buy stuff from the TJ Maxx the next
you're probably right. That you should get like a really good like
crowbar,
like Kevlar like vest situation, helmet thing, so that you can just go loot stores.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about like people wearing creepy masks, macheting you or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a better idea than counterfeiting the money, which is gonna be hard. Also, like I'd have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I know. I just want to go,
and I'd have to build a bunker to like hide from all the weird. Turns out everyone's a murderer. I'd have to hide from all those people. Anyway, get back to counterfeiting. I'm sorry. I'll stop talking about the Purge for once.
All right, so John Vogel is at this shipping place in Texas, and this lady isn't minding her own business, and she becomes suspicious when she asks Vogel about what he was shipping.
Yeah, none of your business, lady.
For a crime guy, he's not like very subtle. I don't know. He was like, clothes. And she was like, right. So his suspicious responses to her questions made the clerk believe that he was shipping drugs. The town was a border town with Mexico.
Not like he's shipping endangered iguanas or like children's fingers or something.
I mean, I guess she didn't know what he was shipping. It could have been iguanas, but she thought it was drugs because the town bordered Mexico.
So what? Let him ship his drugs.
I mean, yeah, let the man live. After he left, she contacted U.S. Customs officials. A drug-sniffing dog was brought in to inspect the package, and the dog confirmed the presence of narcotics. So I don't really understand this, but they had the package sent to Minnesota, where local investigators inspected it. Inside the package, they found some pieces of men's clothing, so he wasn't totally lying, along with 2 aerosol canisters with fake bottoms. Inside the canisters were about 4 grams of cocaine and $3,800 bills.
It was like that thing from Jurassic Park that they had the dinosaur DNA in.
Right. I sort of, yes, the shaving cream.
Yeah.
I sort of think, like, if you're sending counterfeit money, like, why do you put the drugs in the same package? Like, the drug sniffing dogs are going to find it.
That was a foolish mistake.
It's only 4 grams of cocaine. Like, what?
He really is shipping counterfeit money, and then it's like, and for an extra treat,
toss in some drugs. Like,
what? You know what? You order something from Etsy, and they're like, and here's a lollipop. It's like, it's like that.
But like 4 grams of cocaine.
I swear you cannot order something from a woman on the internet and not get like a little gift. And sometimes I'm really like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing I did not purchase?
It's true. It's true. If you don't get a little candy with your Etsy order,
you're sort of like, what the hell? But I think that's what this is. It was just a little nose candy.
A little treat. Yeah, also in the container were strips of test print, which are often used in counterfeiting. The print reflects the treasury seal and the serial numbers. Investigators had discovered one of the biggest counterfeiting operations ever discovered in history. I mean, I guess
I'm just jealous.
Yeah. I think we're supposed to like be cheering.
Oh my god, no!
Not counterfeiters. Investigators looked into Vogel's past and discovered that he had served time in 1986 for armed bank robbery. He had been captured only after a
To be fair, he thought it was the Purge. He thought crime was legal when he was robbing that bank. He was just wrong.
Get him some slack.
His watch was off. The Purge didn't start for another 4 hours. Like, to jail you go.
So after his parole in 1991, he operated a small printing business just outside of Minneapolis.
Oh man, do you think it still exists and we could go there?
I'm gonna say probably not, since it doesn't seem like he was printing anything but money. But
we could be out there with protest signs that they make counterfeiting legal.
We could.
People are just like, what? This is not an issue. What are you doing?
Federal investigators put his cocaine and counterfeit bills back into the package and
staged... God. Yeah, right. They did that cocaine. Anytime cops find
this Unsolved Mysteries was very specific. They put it back in the box.
That's actually suspicious that they had to be specific about what happened to that cocaine. Because I swear every bust is like, oh, we found 10 tons. I mean 9. Put those in the evidence locker, those 6 tons of cocaine.
Yeah, so
is it hard to concentrate with me constantly interrupting you with nonsense?
I just can't get my notes straight. Also, I'm on muscle relaxers. Federal
excuse.
Federal investigators, put his shit back in the box, and then they staged a like undercover mission where someone dressed up as a delivery guy and went to hand deliver this package. And then
so unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean they knew where he was. He was at his business. But anyway, they stormed in, they arrested him. His business was searched and large quantities of counterfeit bills were found. They also searched a storage locker he had rented. They found 196,116 counterfeit bills, which added up to more than $19 million. He had been printing bills since his release in 1991. He got out of jail and immediately got to work.
He had a vision. He was focused. He was hard working.
Plan.
This is the American dream
situation. He pulled himself up.
He was a small business owner contributing to the economy here in Minnesota. And the man just has to crush him down.
This is kind of funny. He in prison, he was in like a program where he worked in the printing industry, and they believe that that's where he learned how to counterfeit.
Well, I'm certainly not the first person to say that prison just makes criminals like better criminals. Like they just like hang out with criminals, talking about crimes, like learning ways not to get caught next time. And this guy literally learned a whole new trade.
Yeah.
Printing, you say?
So they had caught him, although he, by this point, had created millions of dollars in fake bills, but he only circulated about $50,000 worth. He had spent his fake money in at least half of the United States. And they talked about how like good this was. Like money, like real money has like fibers like woven into it, and he had like done that. Like they're very convincing fakes, which I think is all the more impressive and reason why he should be celebrated and not arrested.
They should have hired him at the Federal Reserve to like come up with security measures or stuff.
Yeah, that's what they would do in the movies.
Exactly. This isn't like white collar at all. What the hell?
On January 17th, 1995, he was released on personal recognizance, and he promptly disappeared and has not been seen since.
Considering since these are not violent crimes, I'm just impressed by how this guy's just like really devoted to crime. Like that is his life. They're like, he's like personal recognizance. He winked a couple times and then
it is really funny that he like of course he just bounced.
Of course he did. And I hope he had some of that counterfeit money stashed somewhere that the cops didn't find.
I'm sure he did.
And I hope that he spent it, and I hope it didn't matter because nobody ever figured out it was fake.
Yeah, so he was out for a while. So he escaped on January 17th, 1995, and he was caught on July 12th, 1995. So he was out for a little while. The FBI working on a tip and found out where he was. It ended in a high-speed chase after he robbed a bank in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He eventually drove off the side of the road into a ditch near Rushmore, Minnesota, and he did end up taking his own life.
See, it's a sad ending. It seems so unnecessary.
His daughter Jennifer wrote a book about his life and criminal history.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Read that. Yeah.
What's it called?
I don't know. I was gonna. Jennifer, is her last name Vogel? Let me look. Oh, the Flim-Flam Man.
Okay.
True family history.
Let's see if the library has this book.
The Flim-Flam Man.
I like it. I like the title.
The Flim-Flam Man, the true story of my father.
Oh, the library does have it. Place on hold. Okay. Was that all you had to say about the glamorous life of counterfeiting?
Yeah, it seems like she didn't know that he was a criminal until he was on the run.
Wow, that's quite a day. Yeah, you just think your dad
One
works in
frosty winter morning in 1995, Jennifer Vogel opened the newspaper and read that her father had gone on the run. He was arrested for single-handedly counterfeiting nearly $20 million in U.S. currency.
Damn.
Oh, she hadn't spoken to her father in more than 4 years. Interesting.
I have to read this book.
Interesting. The Flim-Flam Man. You'll have to let me know if it's good.
I mean, it's probably not, but
there is a major motion picture, which is called Flag Day.
That's weird.
I don't know why it's called. Anyway,
it's his favorite day. I now have a missing persons case, which is the case of Justin Bergwinkle. Yes, that is really his name.
Wait a second. Did I block that? What is his last name?
Bergwinkle.
Bergwinkle?
Yeah.
That's not a real name.
I think I'm saying it. I might not be saying it right, but
I don't care. That's how we're saying it.
the right way is at least as ridiculous as the way I'm saying it, because every time Robert Stack said it, I was just like, all right. So Justin went AWOL in the summer of 93. 3 months after his disappearance, his car was found in the parking lot of a motel in Northern California. Justin had been well liked by his fellow soldiers and superiors. People were surprised when he suddenly pieced out on the army. But was he actually involved in something undercover that the government isn't discussing? And I just wrote,
No.
maybe? I don't know. I feel like there's kind of not enough information with this case. I feel like you can look at it as it's either mental illness or it's the government is up to something shady, which the government usually is up to something shady, but I sort of think this is just mental illness. But anyway, Justin had been part of the Rangers and had been doing language training in Korea. However, he was pulled from that squadron or whatever you call it after a shoplifting incident. So he was no longer part of this like elite unit, and
was he stealing candles from TJ Maxx?
I do want to know more about the shoplifting incident and what he was stealing, but that was not mentioned. So he was transferred to Fort Ord near Monterey, California for kitchen duty, which he was not super excited about. We hear from his girlfriend Yolanda, who lived near Santa Clara. This was 85 miles away from Fort Ord, but he visited her whenever he could. They had met at a nightclub. They were pretty close and pretty serious. They were together for a few years. He would sometimes so what happens is he would drive all this way to visit Yolanda, to stay with her for the weekend or whenever he had time off, but he would have to leave abruptly for quote unquote secret business in Monterey. And whenever she asked about it, he was like, I can't tell you, or I'm like not allowed to tell you, or whatever.
If you had like another girlfriend in Monterey.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, I have secret business.
I have secret business, baby. Don't ask about it. So, and he would tell her that it was like best for her to not know. And I don't know, whatever. He was very dramatic.
Probably was.
In the February of 1983, he was transferred to Fort Lewis, which is near Tacoma, Washington, which is even further away. So eventually he came to visit Yolanda for 2 weeks. And she remembers his behavior at this time as pretty odd and sort of out of character for him. For example, he always would carry a briefcase with him and like never leave it, even though he wasn't like doing anything like businessy. And
well, I do that too. I just carry a briefcase around.
That's something like children do. It's like, I'm a fancy man going to an office. So he would never open it in front of her because she wasn't supposed to see what was inside. But of course, because Yolanda is a normal person, she did what I would do. And she like looked at him opening the briefcase through a mirror, right? Like she looked at the reflection of him opening the briefcase. And what she witnessed was him just taking out pieces of paper and ripping them into tiny little pieces.
It's really weird.
Which, if the reenactment is correct, those pieces of paper didn't have anything on them. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how accurate that was. Another example of his weird behavior was that one day she found him just sitting alone in the living room sobbing uncontrollably, and he wouldn't say what was wrong. There was one night when he was out with friends, or I don't know, maybe his other girlfriend, and the phone rang and asked for him. And when Yolanda said that he was not home, the person on the phone said, "Oh, just give him a message for me. The mission is off." Which I do not think is how the army does secret missions, by the way. I don't think
I'm going to say probably not.
I don't think they just like leave a message with your girlfriend that isn't even really coded.
Just the secret mission is not happening anymore.
So your boyfriend, he's like an elite ranger and he's part of this super secret squadron of like fancy muscle men, and they have to do fancy secret mission spy stuff. It's like really cool. But anyway, that mission's off. So when he got home and she told him this message, he was rather upset about it and was like cursing and whatever, but he refused to discuss it or what it meant. So a few days after that, he went back to the base. And shortly after his return, he purchased 2 handguns and 100 rounds of ammo. Then on the 4th of July, he failed to show up for his kitchen shift, which started at 4:30 in the goddamn morning. The people that worked in the kitchen were trying to cut him some slack and didn't report his absence immediately because people liked him and You know, you can get a lot of trouble in the army for not being where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So they didn't turn him in immediately, but by Monday, when he once again didn't show up for his shift, they were like, okay, look, we don't know where the hell Justin is.
Yeah.
So he ended up being reported AWOL at that time. But it turns out that late Friday, when he was actually supposed to be, you know, scrubbing potatoes or something, he was driving to Yolanda's place where he showed up at the middle of the night and she was not expecting him. And if the reenactment is accurate, she's like fucking asleep and is woken up by Justin being like, "Hi, I'm here,"
Oh my god.
which seems terrifying. I realized that they've been together a while. She probably has like a key to her place, you know, whatever. But to like have no idea your boyfriend is coming over and he's just shaking you awake, like, "Hi, babe."
Yeah,
It's
that'd freak me out.
it's 3 a.m. And she's just like, "Why are you like? Don't you have work?" Like, I'm so confused right now. Anyway, she was also confused how he had gotten more time off because obviously the army is very strict about stuff like that, and he had just been visiting her for like 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
So she was like, it's great you got more time off, babe, but like what the fuck is happening?" And he was like, "Oh, I'll explain later." She was, I think, worried about him by this point, and so she made him call his parents. And his parents were like, "What the fuck? The army called us and apparently you're AWOL. Like, the army is looking for you." And he was like, "Don't worry. I'm actually here for work. This whole thing is going to get sorted out. It's like, it's a mistake. And they will find out that I'm supposed to be with my girlfriend right now." Which doesn't make a ton of sense. Doesn't make a ton of sense.
No. Also, he worked in the kitchen. Like, what?
Yeah, but he was also a super secret special spy, Samantha.
You're right.
He did super secret special spy things. You wouldn't even understand. Okay. He did apparently call the base to say, like, "Hey, I heard you reported me AWOL and I'm going to be back soon. I just have to take care of some things." And I was kind of like, dude, this is not like the grocery store. This is the army. Like,
What did he think they were going to say? Oh, okay. We understand.
Yeah.
You're not AWOL anymore.
Yeah. Oh, family business. Yeah. We're very accommodating. We're the fucking United States military. We're known for being extremely flexible. Yeah. So I think they were more like confused than anything, honestly. I think they were like, "What the fuck? Maybe we don't want this guy to come back." But instead of going back to base, he stayed at Yolanda's and continued his mysterious trips to Monterey. At one point, when he's walking out with his briefcase to go to Monterey, Yolanda demands to know what the hell is going on. And he told her to watch the movie White Sands, which I had never heard of. It's a movie that came out in 1992, and it's about international arms smuggling that involves both the FBI and the CIA. So Yolanda had to then like do homework and watch this movie. And then she was like, "Oh, does this mean he's doing work for the CIA?" No, probably not, Yolanda. But anyway, one day he left from Monterey at 10 a.m. and never came back. This is when the Birdwinkle family was missing. What is weird is they got no assistance looking for him. Now, is that really?
That is weird.
It is kind of weird. You would think they would care more about someone who was in the army and until this point had been like an upstanding citizen. Apparently when the police called and they were like, the last place we knew he was his girlfriend Yolanda's, the police were like, "Yeah, we're not going there." They like flat out refused. Apparently there was
a little odd.
There was no search for him ever. It was 3 months later that his car was found, which is what we opened on. Inside the trunk of his car was his infamous briefcase, now containing his wallet, car keys, credit cards, military ID, and his dog tags, which I'm sure you all know you're not supposed to take off. He had previously told Yolanda that if she ever saw his dog tags just lying around, that meant he was dead. So she was like, "Oh, he's dead." The segment concludes with saying that his 3 greatest loves in his life were Yolanda, his mother, and his car. Would he really leave all 3 without saying goodbye? Look, he might have said goodbye to the car. We don't know. I think this is a mental illness thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's kind of right at that age where schizophrenia or something similar could become a problem, where previously he hadn't had a history of mental illness. It does seem like he was very demoralized by losing that position for the Rangers and getting kitchen duty. I don't know if that's a contributing factor or not, really. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of Burn Notice, and I was like, well, maybe the government is doing this off the books thing, blah blah blah. But I don't actually see any evidence for that here. It's just a guy acting kind of kooky.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's weird they never found him. It's weird. The police didn't even like fucking care, but guess what? That's why these mysteries are unsolved, because the police don't do a good job.
Yeah, it's really true.
I feel really bad for his family that loved him, and I feel bad for Yolanda that loved him too, and I'm sure they would like to know
they
what
have
happened
no
to him.
answers, and no one even looked.
That is, it's weird.
So that just sucks.
But I guess the area near where his car is found is like very densely wooded, and you know, maybe if he went out there to harm himself, you know, maybe he really wouldn't be found. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that area.
Well, and we'll never know because no one ever looked.
But that's the other thing. It's not like that what happened to Josh case where there's like this huge search and helicopters and people on horseback and all this stuff. Like no one ever really bothered to look. Like clearly his parents tried to get people to care, but it doesn't sound like anyone did any kind of search at all. And I think the army was just baffled by his behavior and was kind of like, you know what, it's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that they really cared by that point either. So
no, it sucks.
Yeah, but I don't know that's mysterious. I think it's just sad.
I agree.
Okay, let's rate this motherfucking episode.
No, we have another one.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry. It's another blink if you miss it segment.
I mean, yeah, it's short, which is weird because this is like a really interesting case and it's very weird, but I guess there's not that much evidence. So this is an unexplained death. This is the death of Dorothy Mae Donovan. And I'm going to say you're going to watch this mystery and you're going to think one thing and then be shocked when it's not that thing.
Oh.
So 70-year-old Dorothy Donovan was the mother of factory worker Charles Holden. Around midnight on June 22nd, 1991, he stopped at a fast food restaurant in Harrington, Delaware after his shift ended. After he left, he says that he got into his truck, and as he was preparing to leave, a stranger approached him asking for a ride. The man said that his sister was having a baby and that he needed to get to the hospital in Georgetown. Charles first said that he could not give the man a ride because it was late and he lived just a few blocks away. However, he eventually changed his mind and agreed to take the man for a certain distance, like not all the way to the hospital, but a little bit of the way. Charles drove the stranger 3 miles down Highway 14. He stopped at the intersection of Highway 14 and Killand Pond Road, wherever that is. This is where he would normally turn to drive home, and he told the stranger that this was as far as he could drive him. The stranger became angry and attacked Charles, demanding Charles's money as well as his truck. Charles grabbed the keys and jumped out. He ran to the store to get help, but the stranger, who was armed with a screwdriver, raced towards him. The stranger threatened to kill him. At that point, Charles said he would take him wherever he wanted to go, which at this point I was telling Charles to my TV that he should just give him the fucking keys and let him go. He's clearly unhinged.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, why get back in the car with him? Like, your truck is not worth that much. Like,
I
not your life.
I don't care how much you love that truck. Let it go. You'll get a new truck.
Let it go.
Go steal another truck. It's not worth it.
It is not worth it. So the stranger threatened to kill him. And at that point, Charles said, he would take him wherever he wanted to go. Which he said that after he was threatened with death, he was like, okay, get in the car. I'll take you where you want to go. Charles, no, just give him the truck.
Make this guy drive himself. He doesn't need a chauffeur.
No. So as the stranger went around to enter the passenger side, Charles did a fake out and sped away in the truck.
That's actually really funny. I'm sorry. That guy's standing there, like, looking murderous with his screwdriver, like, hey, that guy didn't let me get back in the car. I wonder why.
I only threatened to kill him.
This always happens to me.
So the stranger tried to run after the truck, but obviously couldn't keep up. After leaving the scene, Charles drove in the opposite direction of his trailer, which is where he lived, trying to shake off his experience. He didn't want the guy to know where he lived.
Yeah, smart thinking, really.
However, when he finally started to return home, he noticed that the strange man was lurking around his trailer. He drove away again to call the police at a payphone. I think he still hoped that the man wouldn't know that was his house. A police officer named Myrna Kinney went with him to his trailer to make sure the stranger was not there. Charles and Myrna examined his trailer but found that nothing was out of place or unlocked. He then asked her to look at Dorothy's house, which was behind the trailer. When they went there, they found that the back door window was broken and that there was blood inside. They went up the stairs to Dorothy's bedroom and found her dead. She had been brutally stabbed in the chest, arms, and face. So nothing had been stolen from Dorothy's house, and investigators ruled out robbery as a motive. At first, they like me, suspected that Charles was responsible due to his bizarre story. And he blamed it on a random black man. I don't know. I was watching this and I was like, I was like, Charles, how much insurance money are you getting? This is fishy as fuck. How did he know where you lived?
Right.
You drove in the opposite. This doesn't even make sense as a made up story. But physical evidence was found that did not belong to Charles and ruled him out as a suspect. Dorothy's murder devastated him and the rest of their family. They were all very close. I think we heard from a few of Charles's sisters, and they were all very upset. So I was wrong. Charles did not murder his mom.
It sure seemed like he did, though, folks.
I did. Look, I've been watching enough Dateline lately to know that the story does not add up. So at first, like I said, the police suspected Charles of Dorothy's murder. But they soon found witnesses at the restaurant who confirmed that the stranger was there, that this man that Charles described was walking around being creepy, had a screwdriver. A witness also saw the struggle.
I often go to a restaurant just clutching a screwdriver.
At midnight. Yeah.
Bring me my waffles.
Normal behavior. There were witnesses also who saw the struggle between the man and Charles over the truck. More importantly, they found a bloody palm print on a banister and DNA evidence that did not match Charles. As a result of this evidence, Charles was cleared.
He could have so easily been railroaded for that.
Extremely easily.
His story is so fishy, and just being like, some black guy I've never seen before did it. It's like, yeah, okay.
And went to my house even though I didn't tell him where I lived, and I drove in a different direction.
So weird.
Yeah, it's extremely weird. So this was solved. DNA found at the scene was uploaded to CODIS, and in November 2005, the DNA evidence along with the bloody palm print on the banister were matched to 41-year-old Gilbert Cannon of Delmar, Maryland. He lived in Delaware at the time of Dorothy's murder. He had previously served time for robbery and drug charges. Before his release, his DNA was collected it was associated with those crimes. And this DNA was used to connect him to the case. In January 2006, he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. When first questioned, Cannon denied any involvement in Dorothy's murder. However, when confronted with the evidence, he confessed. He told authorities that he was high on cocaine. He said that after Charles left him at the intersection, he walked down the road looking for a place to spend the night. He passed several houses, but they all had lights on. He said that he chose Dorothy's house because it was the first one he could find that was dark. So it was a complete coincidence.
That's so wild.
When he broke the back door, she woke up and he killed her to keep her from identifying him. Cannon confirmed that it was just a coincidence that he chose Dorothy's house. He said that he did not know either her or Charles. He also confirmed that he acted alone. In April 2007, he pled guilty to the murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dorothy's daughter, who I think is in the episode, Diana, passed away in 2020. So it's just a weird coincidence. I mean, they were really close to the house, but it was a complete coincidence that he chose that house, which makes this even more wild. Yeah, completely wild. I'm sorry, Charles, that I didn't believe your story, but it was really fishy. I'm glad you didn't go to prison for a crime you didn't commit.
That's the truth is stranger than fiction one, which usually is not how that goes. But
Right.
damn, that's something right out of a horror movie.
I know.
Ugh, horrible for everyone involved. Terrible.
All right, now we can rate it.
Oh, okay. Phew.
So, if I can even remember what our categories are, I believe the first one is mysteriousness.
Okay, I'll give it a thumbs up because I really did like talking about Ouija boards, and I really like Robert Stack indulging us on that topic.
I mean, the first, okay, I really don't think the patience thing is that mysterious, but the first one actually is like that woman seemed credible.
Again, that's
Like,
a wild coincidence, and your last one has a really wild coincidence too. So
yeah. So I think it's
I'm gonna push
also
that
we
into,
don't know what happened in your second mystery. Like we don't know
Yeah,
where
that's
he is. Like no
true.
one found him. Like that's very mysterious.
What happened to Justin? What was
Yeah.
going on with Justin? What was in that briefcase? What was
it blank pieces of paper?
Was he just ripping up printer paper to feel important? Did he have a side chick in Monterey? We have questions.
So many questions. Yeah. So very mysterious. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Reenactments.
Fine.
They were all right.
The ripping up the paper thing is kind of funny.
What do you think of the Ouija board reenactments?
I actually really liked the Ouija board reenactments. I liked these like old timey, almost Victorian drawing room settings. Lots of doilies. If you love a doily, oh man,
this is the episode for you.
yeah. So I'm gonna say thumbs up because I liked those.
All right. Yeah, I agree. They were good. Fashion.
Nothing really stands out to me.
No, not really.
All the Ouija board fashions were just kind of drab, old timey fashions. Nothing about them really is so spectacular, and there was only one mustache that I named, and I'm just not impressed. Thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree. Robert Stack. Him talking about Ouija boards really did it for me.
He gets that twinkle in his eye when he thinks something's bullshit. I don't know how he does it, but I swear with not really changing his facial expression, conveys to you that he doesn't believe it. Like that's the power of his acting chops.
Yeah,
he's like psychically channeling into your mind him going like, you and I are smart enough to know this is not true, but let me talk about it for those dummies out there. And you're like, got it, Stack. So yeah, thumbs up all the way.
Yeah, I agree. So I like this episode on our Robert Stack scale of 0 to 5 Robert Stacks. I feel like 3.5.
I'm 3.5, 4.
Yeah,
like
I think it was good.
I almost want to know more about this Ouija board case, even though those books seem really boring. Like this woman devoted so much time to writing things by making her husband transcribe them letter for letter, which is such a power move. It's just a good story, that one. And the Scotland coincidence thing is a good story. Your last segment is wild. I wish it was longer. I feel like it was just, I almost completely forgot about it because it was
it could have been longer. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I want
a whole Dateline episode about it.
I would have liked to hear from the witnesses that saw him at the restaurant and saw the fight. I would have liked to hear from people that lived nearby. Like, stretch it out. I would have taken it.
Yep.
So that's really my only complaint. I think I'm gonna give it a 4. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like we've done things like Justin's story before about like people's suspicious military deaths. And maybe that's what would make it a 3.5, but just for the power of the Ouija board, some say the most dangerous game, I'm going to give it a 4. Some people say that they are incorrect.
No, there's way more dangerous games.
Lawn darts, those things I had to ban because
Cinnamon challenge.
Have you seen that single chip challenge? It's like
with the really spicy ones. Yeah, those you can go to the emergency room for those too. Eating those things.
Obviously in Minnesota, where no one can handle spice at all, they have become a real problem at schools. People's kids keep getting like dared to eat these like incredibly spicy chips that are sold singularly, and then obviously have no spice tolerance, and go to like the emergency. Oh my god. So funny. So that seems like a word. Eating a
TikTok. I want to see you eat one of these chips.
Okay, I'll do it.
I could not handle it. I'd say I couldn't. I'm sure I could. I don't think I would go to the emergency room, but I'm sure I could not handle it.
I'm sure I'll have like a bad time. I don't think I'll like it. Yeah, again, I don't think I'm going to go to the emergency room. So that seems like a slightly more dangerous game. No, the most dangerous game is the Charlie Challenge. That's why it has such a silly name.
Yeah.
To hide how dangerous it really is.
That's how you know.
To lure you in. Okay, I wanted to do a quick recommendation.
Okay.
We recently, to celebrate your birthday, went to the Mad Hatter restaurant and tea house in Anoka, which was an extremely pleasant experience, I have to say.
It was lovely.
So charming.
I couldn't walk. It was great.
Even though Samantha was in horrible, blinding pain, and I still made her go to a tea house because I wanted to go. Extremely charming experience. We had like an afternoon tea where they bring out the like plates of scones and little sandwiches and dessert thingies on this like tiered thing, and
everything was so delicious.
So good. And the food was really, really good. There was like timers for the tea, so you brewed it. I don't know. It was very very fancy but fun.
I loved that so many people who were there for tea got like really dressed up. It was just like a fun atmosphere. Like everyone was into it. It was great.
Yeah, it was like nice, but not I don't know. I was expecting it to be maybe a little more froofy. Like no no insult to our elderly listeners. I thought it was gonna be more old lady-ish. And I thought it was not that really. It was just charming and nice.
Yeah.
I had a really good time.
It was delicious.
Okay,
and
so
they have so many different types.
That's why I brought it up, because I'm sure people are going, Liz, I'm not by Anoka, Minnesota. And I would go, well, too bad for you, because that's the Halloween capital of the world. And now you can't go to this tea house. But fortunately for you, you can order their tea, and their tea is amazing. And I was going to specifically recommend the Winter Punch herbal tea, good. Which I'll read to you here. Has rooibos, ginger bits, coconut chips, cinnamon, apple bits, cardamom, black pepper, and almond flakes. I think this is really, really, really delicious. I really like that.
Good. I'm going to recommend the raspberry patch, which I think is raspberry patch. I think it was spelled wrong on the menu. I think it was raspberry patch.
It was a typo, and I asked for the raspberry one, and she was like raspberry patch, and I was like, oh, that's what that word is.
It was spelled wrong. It tastes strongly of raspberry, which I think is not common in raspberry teas.
No, I feel like they usually smell great, and then you taste them and you go, oh, that's water.
It was like bright red. Like it tasted like raspberries. It was so good.
It was very good. Very good. I'm going to unrecommend this
watermelon.
This green tea, watermelon, basil, lime, I think it was.
It was watermelon, basil, and lime. And it was very bad. Okay,
so I didn't drink this tea, but Samantha was pouring herself a glass, and she holds it across the table for me, and she goes, this tea smells like a thrift store. And by God, it really did.
It smelled exactly like a thrift store.
It smelled I go to thrift stores a lot, so I feel like I know what I'm talking about. In fact, Arden and I stopped at a thrift store on the way home, and we both went, this place smells less like a thrift store than that tea. Which is not good, because thrift stores smell like flea powder. That's why they all smell the same. So I'm gonna not recommend that tea. Apparently it tasted fine, but the smell was funky, and I just personally think that that's disgusting.
Okay, it tasted okay, but it did not taste like any of the three things that was advertised. It did not taste like watermelon, it did not taste like basil, and it did not taste like lime. I don't really know what it tasted like. It was okay, except that while you're drinking it, you're smelling thrift store. So that was a little unpleasant. It was okay. It was a very mild taste.
I like that. I'm like, this place is great. It's excellent. I loved everything about it. However, there is one tea there that smells like a thrift store. But you know what? That was our experience.
Well, the thing of it is if you are in the area and you do want to go and you're worried about like, oh, I don't really like tea that much. Like, what am I like? You can send the tea back and get a new one. They have so many teas on their menu, and the waitress we had was very nice, and she was like, if you get one that you just don't like, or you just want to try something else, just leave it at the end of the table. I'll come by and I will get you a new one. And so we were able to try a bunch of different ones. And we sent that one back and just got something different because it just wasn't to our taste.
It's not like sending your food back at a restaurant. Like, they expect you to try different teas. So you just, like, put it at the end of your table and it's like, okay, it's time for something else. It's not like we were like, this is horrible.
You couldn't even, I mean, you get a full teapot. I don't, you know,
Yeah.
I think you're going there to try a bunch of different teas. That's kind of the point. So
Yeah. We weren't like, I'm sorry, ma'am, this smells like a thrift store. Please spit in the chef's face for us. But yeah, no, we got to try a bunch of them, and it was just a lovely, very pleasant afternoon. So I would check out you can apparently order this at madhatteranoka.com. And they have different sizes or like different amounts of tea. The amount I bought, it says it yields 20 cups, and this was $16. So, and it's delicious.
amazing.
Okay. So that wraps up this episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and we will keep going with even more of season 7 soon. And we also have more reboot to do for you on the Patreon.
More reboot. Pretty soon we'll get to watch that Rob Lowe movie.
We are going
finish
to
the reboot.
Watch a Rob Lowe Netflix movie about like finding a missing dog. Are we gonna cry? Maybe.
Probably.
I don't know. It's a Rob Lowe.
You better
movie
find the
with a
dog at the end. That's all I gotta say.
We should probably look that up on Does the Dog Die?
You probably should.
Does Rob Lowe murder a dog? That would be quite a twist. It's like clearly like this very family friendly movie.
And then Rob Lowe throws it off a cliff.
He's like, good thing I found this dog.
Just eats the dog. Like, I didn't like this dog anyway.
I can finally enact my revenge. The movie takes this like really weird turn. Oh, that actually sounds kind of amazing.
Based on a true story, I doubt that's how it ends, but we'll see.
Fuck this dog.
Fuck this dog. That's actually what the movie's called, is Fuck This Dog.
He kicks it off a cliff.
Rob Lowe!
Rob Lowe, get in touch. Let's make some deals. Let's make this new movie happen. Fuck this dog.
I'm sure it'll be a bestseller. Everyone wants to see Fuck This Dog.
People would be so pissed. I could agree. The least popular movie of all time.
I wonder what that hairstylist would say about your plan to make a man fuck this dog.
Yeah. She'd probably be like, okay, now that sounds really good. Okay, so thank you always to Repod for believing in us, for looking into our souls. And you should be listening to this podcast on there.
We finally have a new episode for you to go on Repod and get us to the top of the charts.
We need to be on the top of the charts. I love being the number one on a podcast platform so much. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review.
Yes.
And tell us how great we are in that 5-star review. And we only accept 5-star reviews, obviously, because we're so good.
Yep.
And is that pretty much it?
I think so. You can subscribe on patreon.com/perhapsit'syou. You can email us about your Ouija board experience.
Oh, yes.
perhapsit'syou@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias. We're still on Twitter, even though we're going down with that ship.
Yeah, I want to watch it explode, even though the algorithm basically doesn't work anymore, and I just see the same tweets over and over again.
Don't you love getting ads in replies to tweets you're trying
really
to read
weird.
when you're on a thread? Isn't that the best?
And sometimes the ads are put under tweets where it's super inappropriate. I don't know. It's just Twitter was always kind of a horror show, but now you go oh, what? But that was our horror show.
At least it was usable anyway.
But now it's not.
Anyway, we're on there though, so you can find us. I think that's it.
Okay. Keep barking, everyone.
Bye.
Solve some mysteries or don't. Whatever. I don't care.